Right, but Annie. Rose. Nope. Wait, let me just put by me. Yeah. This one should go a little bit smoother. Let me just take a small drink. Might re-record Small Town Draxfell at some point with like better reading, better editing, etc. I am genuinely embarrassed about that. However, here we go with Depths of the Dungeon, spooky short story 2. Let's go. It had been millennia since the dungeon appeared. An abyss full of monsters and treasure, spiraling floor after floor into the earth. Adventurers from far and wide tried their hand at plundering its depths. Prizes of riches and fame excited greedy and prideful souls alike. The best of those adventurers was Sophia Giano, an adventurer gifted like no other. Sophia's unparalleled drive to see the furthest depths of the dungeon saw her bringing back riches that set her family up for generations and fame surpassing any noble or royalty. She brought back trophies proving her descent to the 99th floor and left once again to conquer even more. Only she never returned. Most assumed the death of the legend. Surely the hubris of her solo adventuring had seen her to... Sorry. Snuffles. Most assumed the death of a legend. Surely the hubris of her solo adventuring had seen her to her end. But her brother, Wyatt Giano, didn't believe it. His sister was near invincible. He knew that for certain. But, one second, let me just mute. Gross noises, whoop whoop. Not because he knew her skill, not because of her experience adventuring, no. He and his parents held her secret. Sophia was like no adventurer that had ever come before her. Wyatt had watched her fallen from a tree as a child, be trampled by farm animals and mauled by wolves. Every time she had been unharmed. Only the sharpest of blades could pierce her skin. Great heights did nothing to her flesh and bones. Sophia had been blessed at birth. Being the younger of the two, he wasn't there, but his parents told him stories of the beautiful otherworldly being that had descended upon them the night of Sophia's birth and promised a strong and successful daughter. Sophia had not disappointed. The money she had brought back had their parents set for life. Wyatt never had to worry about her. Until now. With the money she had earned and the renown, Wyatt managed to get himself onto the most powerful adventuring party out there. 3 made up the party. One was the son of the Blacksmith's Guild, his armour so tough that it could block the swing of the strongest monsters. One was the Archmage of the Guild, spells so powerful they would eviscerate armies, and the last was a Royal Knight, whose holy blade was the bane of evil. Wyatt was not so skilled. He had not gone into adventuring with his sister. However, he had been there to hear all her stories and document what he could, so her tales would never be untold. He had not released those stories as of yet, so no one who wasn't missing knew about the dungeon's depths more than he. With the might of these 3 great warriors and Wyatt's knowledge, they made their way They made it all the way. Down, 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 through icy caverns and lava rivers, through dirt and diamonds covered in sweat and blood. They trudged through 99 floors. Floor 99 itself was strange. All the other floors had been natural in some sense. Whether it was some strange underground forest or a cold and icy cavern or burning with a lava's warmth, none had looked like this, with bleached white walls and the floor was tiled with pale blue. Their footsteps gave a strange echo in the empty, thin hallways, strips of light above them. What kind of magic power these? The Archmage could only muse, as the scene made their blood run cold. It was just so different in comparison to what they knew. Even the air down here smelled strangely sharp. On the wall there were signs, but the script was too old and too strange even for the Archmage's spells to be able to translate. They were yellow and black. Some seemed to have triangles with markings inside. On the edge, they carried on, but there were no monsters. Not a hoof of a minotaur, nor the stench of a goblin. Just a corridor. The party passed the old, thin-looking blue door with no might or magic. But no might nor magic could get them to open. So they had no choice but to continue. Ooh, some bad editing there. Well done, me. Eventually, the eerie corridor of silence came to an end at a large black door, which was at least familiar enough to be a door to the next floor, even if it was much smaller than the others they had come across so far. "Did your sister ever mention this place?" asked the Royal Knight. No, Wyatt answered unsurely. She brought back a trophy. She brought back a trophy, didn't she? Where'd she even get that from this level? I believe I saw it. I saw where she would have gotten it, on the 98th floor, the Archmage answered. No one else has been this far to check before, so I suppose she just grabbed something on the way out. Either way, we must press on. The knight stepped forward, courageous as ever. The party descended onto the 100th floor. The staircase landed on a large and open room with blue tiles spread out. 4 pillars reached up to the low ceiling, and on the other end of the room was 3 people. At first glance, they looked like normal humans, but something about their auras, their presence made every one of them put their guard up. 2 were dressed in a blue uniform in front of a barred wall. The 3rd was sitting behind a desk. The deskman's strange golden eyes looked up at their arrival. None of the adventuring party could bring themselves to even take a single step. Everything in their blood told them that if these creatures attacked, there would be nothing left of them. The man-looking thing at the desks stood. He straightened the black tie of his black suit as he stepped around the desk and approached them. Congratulations on coming this far, mortals. I have to admit, I didn't think we would see any of you down here. I will have to up the security of the higher levels. He clapped. The armourer, the archmage, and the knight flinched at the sound, but Wyatt tensed. He managed to find his moment and pushed to the front of the group. Where's my sister? He tried to yell, demand answers, but it came out like a meek request. Sister, the man-like thing questioned. You can relax. We have no qualms. Sorry. We have no qualms with you mortals, but my throat has qualms with being parched right now. The Archmage managed to calm somewhat those words, even taking it as an invitation to speak, talking over Wyatt, who tried to ask about his sister. What is this place? What is this place? Is that the voice I was using? I don't know. Your people call this place a dungeon, did you not? Do you not think that, as the name suggests, that this is a place where prisoners were being held? Behind this wall are powerful beings and dark gods that would destroy and consume not only your world, but others should they escape. And it is my job to keep them here. The being gestured to the barred wall. As a reward for besting my security and showing me where I need to improve, I will reward you all handsomely, whatever money, knowledge, or boon you wish. However, you will also leave with a curse that will kill you should you speak of what lies here. The party looked between each other. The knight, the armourer, and the archmage were starting to smile. All they wanted was the bragging rights of being the ones who saved the legendary adventurer, but now an even greater reward lay before them. Wyatt, however, no! I came here for my sister. What did you do to her? The being's eyes focused on him, and Wyatt stiffened. Took a few moments before finally speaking. Sister... Ah, I see. He frowned. Unfortunately, she has been touched by one of my inmates. A mistake by us that a part of their influence managed to escape. She was naught but a tool they used to try escape. She has been incarcerated. Wyatt stared. No. He shook his head. Who to her? The being's eyes focused on him, and Wyatt stiffened. Took a few moments before finally speaking. Sister... Ah, I see. He frowned. Unfortunately, she has been touched by one of my inmates. A mistake by us that a part of their influence managed to escape. She was naught but a tool they used to try escape. She has been incarcerated. Wyatt stared. No. He shook his head. No, that can't. But then, all her life, Sophia had wanted nothing more than to get into the dungeon and see the lowest point. Wyatt had asked her why. She wanted to so many times. Her powers could be used in other places, but all she wanted was to get to the bottom of the dungeon. Maybe she was so driven sometimes. She was so driven sometimes Wyatt had thought her possessed. Maybe she had been. Then it's not her fault. You should let her go. He tried to order the godly being. I am sorry for what happened, but she is rather powerful. She was hard enough to subdue in the first place, and I risk letting others out, opening the door for her. You may ask me for anything else, but I cannot bring you your sister. The godly being answered, a fake sympathy in its voice. Wyatt heard the rest of the party behind him, whispering and muttering about what they could ask of this being as their reward. Then, can I at least see her? Can that be my reward? He requested. The godly being considered this. In the meantime, his party made their requests. The Archmage asked for immortality to forever study magic. The Armourer asked for a mine under his home that would never run out of precious metals. The Knight asked for a bright future for his princely charge. After granting all of these requests, the being turned to Wyatt once more. All right, he answered, but it will not be for long. Come with me. He turned away. Wyatt gave a glance to his party, who smiled to assure him that they would wait for him. One of the beings in blue opened the barred door and led him in through. In darkened shadows, Wyatt saw a line of screens. The being stood by one of them and gestured for Wyatt to watch it. When Wyatt focused on it, the screen lit up. It was blinding for a few moments before pictures started to fade in. The colours and spectrums his eyes had never perceived before were visible in the strange abyss the screen showed. None of that mattered when he saw her floating there. Sophia! He called. He went to touch the screen, but the command from the being in a suit stopped him. Do not touch. The floating form blinked. Wyatt? Came a mumble. Came to save you, sis. I did, but then save me. Her weak voice came through. She turned in the air and floated towards the screen. Please, Wyatt. She reached out for him, and Wyatt couldn't stop himself. He reached back. His fingers touched the screen. Then it shut off, and his sister was gone. However, they had to keep up appearances. They forced their face to look longingly at the screen. Brought both hands to it. I told you not to touch. However, the boon is complete. Follow me. The warden didn't suspect a thing. They left with the rest of the party, succeeding in their escape. Despite her own failed attempt at carrying out their will, the girl had been useful in the end, it seemed. The vessel was young, and it moved nicely. As thanks for the sacrifice of both brother and sister, they would be sure their family dies last when the world burned. The end! I don't know how this one comes across as a reader, but I know writing it, I gave myself the heebie-jeebies with the ending there, because I got really into the brain of this eldritch being that just took over this child. And it was just like, haha, this child is dead, it's mine now, I'm now walking a corpse. It was, yeah. But also, wait a minute. Why did no one tell me that I put the number up instead of down? I just nearly made things harder for myself. Thought wouldn't mind. Thought would be like, la 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 in the background, controlling me. Anyway. Da 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 da. So depths of the dungeon. I can't even remember where this came from in my imagination. Probably Danmachi. Because Danmachi has such a really cool mystery around its dungeon and what its dungeon is. It is a whole being in itself. So I guess I was sitting there with that, and then I was thinking of the word dungeon. I was like, what if it is actually a dungeon? What if there is something being imprisoned in there, which I know isn't the most original thought. You got Arifureta and other things, but I was just thinking, what scary things would be under the dungeon, and this is what came out of that. That is how Depths of the Dungeon was born.